Welcome, everyone, to this very important presentation. We especially welcome our veterans today. This webinar is being recorded. The presentation will be mailed to you. You'll receive a PDF of the PowerPoint. You'll receive a link to the recording and a lot of other really pertinent information. If you have a question anytime, we encourage you to write your question down right away and put it in the chat, the Q&A. And those questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. We would appreciate it very much if you would participate with us in a poll at this point. So we're going to throw the poll up, and the first question is, are you a veteran? If you're not, you're still welcome, but we would like to know if you're a veteran. Are you looking for a business opportunity? Yes or no? Do you own a business? That's already own a business. And do you have a franchise in mind to purchase? So let's take just a very short time and answer those questions before I close the poll. Okay. Okay, here's the results. Here are the results. 100% veterans of those who answered the poll, 50-50 on looking for a business opportunity, 50% of you own a business, and in the final question, none of you have a franchise in mind to purchase. So you're right here at the beginning of the learning curve, and I think you're going to find this webinar very, very beneficial. Amanda Berry is our presenter today. She's with FranNet. She has a number of years experience working with veterans, both with FranNet and with the Veterans Administration. Amanda, look forward to what you have to present to us today.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you everyone for attending today. I really look forward to your participation. Please don't let this just be a one-way webinar. I would absolutely encourage discussion. We are here to help you figure out what is your next business move. So thank you for having me. Welcome to your webinar for the day. Is entrepreneurship the next step in your career? As Tom said, a little bit about me. My name is Amanda Berry. I am a franchise consultant. I have over 5 years of experience in franchising and business ownership in general. Prior to this, I had 10 years experience working with the Department of Veteran Affairs. Now myself, I am not a veteran, but my husband is. I'm an Army wife. And for the first 10 years of my career, I worked in all aspects of the Veterans Benefits Administration, helping my veterans get everything from housing, home loans, education benefits, disability benefits, and assisting those transitioning from the military life to civilian life. So I get to now continue to do that in my role as a franchise consultant, where I help people like you, veterans, decide, is business ownership an appropriate next step? And if so, where do you go from here? How do you maximize your benefits as a former service member? And how do you carry that through to either your existing business or to a business that you will purchase in the future? So thank you for being here. A little bit about FranNet. We are a 30-year-old international franchise consultancy firm. We've been around for a while. We have locally based consultants in almost every market, and that's really important. We have franchise consultants in a city where you live that can help you identify what is a good business for the market that you're in. That local knowledge is very important, we feel, to help you make the best decision for you and your family. We have national partnerships with all kinds of organizations, most notably, obviously, SCORE, who we're presenting with today, where we work with industry experts and really partner to ensure that our clients are successful in their entrepreneur endeavors. The best part is, like SCORE, we are also 100% free to you, our client. I like to call us the eHarmony or the Match.com of the business world. We take individuals looking to own a business, figure out what they are good at, build a business model, and then match them to a business that fits their needs. As I said here, what does FranNet do? We match prospective franchisors with prospective franchisees. We also assist in financing. A lot of questions that I usually have with clients surrounding business ownership has to do with how do you fund a business. And we're going to go over some of those options today. There are lots of options available, even more so for veterans. The lending environment, of course, is changing. COVID threw things for a loop. What is available today is very, very different than what was available pre-2020. We'll go over some of those things as well. And our purpose is to educate you on the best funding options for you and the type of business that you're going into. Sometimes the business structure will directly correlate to what funding option is best. So keep that in mind. We always like to also start with our client bill of rights, much like when you were in service. If you were in service, every branch of the military has their own core values. We also have core values that we try to live by. We have 10 of them here. I will not read them to you. I will say that the common theme is integrity, and integrity in everything that we do with our clients, and ensuring that everything that we do for you and work with you is in your best interest. Okay, so let's get into today's presentation. Our agenda, what I have laid out here. First, we're going to talk about why business ownership in general. Two, what are your options? We say let's jump into a business, let's become an entrepreneur, but how do you really go about doing that? Kind of the nuts and bolts of it. We're going to talk a little bit about the risk and rewards. Every business is risky. You need to know that going in, and really understanding your risk assessment and your risk tolerance will help you in the long run. We're going to do a fun little game I like to call Myths or Facts. I hope you will participate in that portion of the program. We'll also talk about what are your best options, and then how do you go about building a personal business model. And I can help you with that, and certainly your SCORE mentor can help you with that. All right, so here's the fun part of the presentation. When you get to sit and imagine what does it mean to you to be a successful business owner? I think all of us kind of sit down and we think about being an entrepreneur. We have an idea in mind of what is that going to do for me in my life? So some very common things that I hear, and some things that I myself had thought about before I opened my own business, was, what was in it for me? For you, these may be very similar or may be very different. Money, that's always a big one that people want to talk about. How much money can I make? What is that's a huge factor in their success, as the amount of pay they take home at the end of the day. It could be also multiple things: success, fulfillment, flexibility. For me personally, control. Control is a very big part of the reason I went from a W-2 employee or corporate employee to a small business owner. I worked for the government for 10 years. And I'm sure if you're a veteran, or if you remember way back when you were in service, there's no control over your day-to-day. It would not be unusual for my boss to come to me on a Friday and tell me I needed to be in a different city or in a different state by Monday, and I may be there for a couple of weeks. So I had no control over my schedule. I had no control over my work environment. So for me, when looking at business ownership, control was an important factor in why I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My best advice whenever you're looking at business ownership is figure out what's in it for you first. What is this business going to give you that you don't currently have, or that you're seeking in your life? And I think it sounds a little wishy-washy, but it is really very important, because when you are going through and you are an entrepreneur, these are the things that will be your biggest drivers through all of the ups and downs. So what is in it for you? And have that kind of crystal in your mind as we move forward. So if owning a business is fantastic and it gives you all of these things like control and flexibility and maybe a better income, why do most people choose to work for someone else? For several reasons. These are some of the reasons that we talk about, and I talk about with my clients, and they're legitimate reasons. First and foremost, what are the risks? Risks of going into business. There are risks. A job is always going to be safer than owning your own business, hands down. You could get a job tomorrow, you walk in, you go to work, you clock in, you clock out, you get a paycheck at the end of the day, you get your benefits at the end of the day, maybe. That's always safer in the short term. And we're going to talk about this, to go into a W-2 job first. I also hear this a lot. I'll wait until the economy is better. The economy is going to go up and down. There's really no good time to jump. It's going to be, when is the best time for you? We'll talk about that a little bit too. Money. I hear this one is a big concern a lot as well. Businesses cost a lot of money to start and run. That can be true. It can also be a bit of a myth. Maybe remember that one for later. It can be a bit of a myth. So we'll talk about what is the actual startup capital that you actually need to open and operate a business. Knowledge, I don't know where to start and I don't know how to find what I'm looking for. To me, this was a very big part of my entrepreneurship journey, transitioning from government service, the most secure job in the world, to entrepreneurship, which is risky. I did not know really where to start or how to even go about it. I didn't understand the difference between an LLC or a C corporation or an S corp. These were all very foreign words to me. I had no idea what they meant until I began working through the process. And I will tell you, your SCORE mentor can absolutely help you with that knowledge gap as well. Lean on them. And skill set. If you're like me, I did not know how to articulate my skill set or turn that into a talent to run a business. I did not understand the correlation of what I used to do and transition that to business ownership. So we're going to talk about how you can do that. And I think all of these things are very important to keep in mind as you go through your entrepreneur journey. Okay, I mentioned this. Is a job safer than running a business? Absolutely. I'm not going to lie to you here. It's 100% safer. But is it safer in the long term? And that actually is where things take an interesting turn. So yes, in the very beginning, working for someone is safer. You go to work, you get your paycheck, you go home at the end of the day. Interestingly, though, the longer you're in a job, the less safe it tends to become. Job security is kind of a thing of the past. There used to be this expectation that your job performance determined your job security. So if you're really good at your job, you would keep your job for a long time. That is no longer the case. It is all about the bottom line. Big corporations, when you become too expensive, you're too expensive. It doesn't really matter your performance. That is something to think about. I will say it's kind of the opposite. When, in my experience, when you're working for someone else, when you're working for what I call the corporate world, short term, your job is safer, yes. Long term, it gets a little shakier. Business is actually the opposite. Whenever you own a business, the short term is a little riskier, right? It's very new. You've probably taken on some debt to open your business. It can be a little scary. You're trying to figure everything out. But the longer you're in business, the safer it tends to become, right? You now have a good customer base. People know who you are. You've probably already serviced any debt you had to go into. You've paid off those loans. So it's interesting. It's everything. I always tell people life is risky in general. Where do you want to take the risk? Up front in a business or at the end as in a job? It's all about where in your life you want to take that risk and which one is going to fit your long-term financial goals and your retirement. So again, owning a business can be scary. The good news is no one can take it away from you. You cannot, well, I guess you could fire yourself from your own business, but you're probably the last employee you would fire. You can grow your business the pace that you want. And again, the longer you own your business, the safer it becomes in general. All right. Another question that I get a lot is, what about the economy? When we talk about owning a business and I want to talk about risk, what are the ways to have risk reduction? How can the economy impact your business? First and foremost, you need to understand your risk tolerance. Where are you at on the risk spectrum? Are you someone who is a gambler, go all in, go big or go home? Or are you someone who's a little more conservative? Are you in between? Where do you fit? And that can actually really help you identify what type of business to go into, where you're going to feel the most comfortable and thrive under that type of pressure. So we kept hearing this, especially during COVID. There are lots of businesses that thrive in all types of economic conditions, markets that are driven by demographics. Doesn't really matter what's happening in the economy. Seniors still need senior care. Homes still need to be repaired. There are essential services. Again, it doesn't really matter what's happening. If you need a new roof, you need a new roof. If your basement flooded, you need water restoration, damage restoration. There are other businesses that help other small businesses, such as business coaching, digital marketing. One I would also add to this list is digital security. More and more of our lives are lived online. The need for that security is going to be there no matter what is happening outside in this economic environment. So if The concern of the economy is something that we need to identify for you and your risk tolerance. Then let's do that, but let's do that in a smart way that gives you the best chance of success and help you pick a business that's going to make you feel the most comfortable no matter what's going on. I will also say we came out of a pandemic. That's probably the worst thing that could ever happen to businesses, to a lot of businesses in the last 100 years. So like we got that out of the way. Now we're on the other side of that and things are really starting to take off. Also, some other things to consider: cars will always need to be maintained. Homeowners will always need things fixed. They either can't or won't do themselves. Again, certain things we've already discussed. I love this last bullet. Children will always need tutoring, even if it's virtual. That was never more so than when we went to non-traditional learning and virtual learning. A lot of parents out there are now putting their children into tutoring. So tutoring is always going to be a hot commodity. All right, before I move on, I just want to check the chat real quick, make sure, is there any questions? I'm not seeing any. Okay, so to our second point of the agenda, what are your options when you're thinking about business ownership? And there are really 3 ways to own a business. And I think on the poll, we have some people here that already own a business. Not sure which one, how you started your business, but I'm sure it fits into one of these 3 categories. So you can either start a business from scratch, you can buy an existing business, or you can buy a franchise. Personally, I have done all 3 of these things. Each comes with their own pros and cons. Again, it's just going to be which one fits you right now in this stage of life and your goals for your future. So starting a business from scratch, many advantages and few disadvantages. Advantage is total control. You are absolutely 100% in control of everything that you do because it's your business, it's your baby. You get to make all the decisions. Plenty of room for creativity. There's no predetermined rules. Nobody's really telling you what to do. It's a very large upside to that. And you can build a business from your passion. We talk about this a lot. What is your passion? What is it that you love to do? If you love to play golf, you can build a business around golf. If you love animals, you can build a business around animals. You can absolutely build a business from scratch, from your passion. There are some disadvantages here. And I will say from personal experience, there's some very large disadvantages here. First and foremost, you must create everything, whether it's how a customer is going to check out of your website, are you going to have an online presence, a payroll, HR functions, what about the legality, the things that you have to have legally, any licensing that is displayed in your place of business, all of those things you must create. You have to be the expert in everything. Limited financial options. This is probably the biggest downside, honestly. It's very difficult to get funding for a business that you start from scratch. Banks really don't like it. There's no historical information to go off of. It's really a lot of speculation, and banks really don't like speculation. So funding options can be very limited. There are some out there. They're just usually non-traditional funding options. Slower ramp up. Starting a business from scratch can be a little slower than the other 2 options for obvious reasons. You're learning how to do everything for the first time. So it can be a bit of a slower ramp, and there is a very high failure rate in the startup business world. Buy an existing business. This is another option. I have also done this one. So advantages, there are a lot of advantages to buying an existing business. One, again, you still have total control, right? You're taking over something else, but you're the boss. You get to do whatever you want with it. Hopefully there's good cash flow. I hope that's the reason you're buying it, is that there is positive cash flow and you can see that and you have actual financial representation of that, which is the next one. So you have goodwill, hopefully. People know and like your product already. It comes with customers. There's actual financial results, which makes it very attractive to lenders. If you were going through traditional lending or a bank, buying an existing business is the most attractive to banks because they have actual tax returns. There are cash flows, there are profit and loss statements. There's lots of documentation a bank can use to weigh their risk in giving you a loan for that business. It's an established market, established customer base. You probably already have employees that you will be taking on. Systems may be in place. Owner financing is an option here, which can be very attractive. So if you find a business for sale and the owner is willing to finance part or all of the purchase, that's always can be very nice, and it can be very attractive if it's your first business, especially. Some disadvantages here. Cash flow can also be a disadvantage. Is there a reason why this person is selling this business? Is it because it's not a good business, or are they losing money? Bad will. Maybe overpriced. I would actually change that to will be overpriced. I have never met a business for sale where it was not initially overpriced. That's just human nature, especially if it's being sold by the original owner operator. This is their baby. They created it. They took care of it. They are always going to feel it is worth more than it really is. Core training and support. Sometimes you write that owner that check and you thought they were going to stay on with you for a couple months and help you transition, but nothing's really keeping them there. They retire and move to Florida. Hidden seller motives. This one can be, do your due diligence to find this one out. Is there a reason this person is selling the business? Employees may leave. I actually had a client that was looking at an existing business with a really great model. He really felt good about it. What made the business so impressive was the length of time the employees had been there. They had all been there at least 10 plus years. It was like not very many employees, 5 or 6 employees, but it was very imperative that those employees stayed. It had a lot of knowledge. When we went through the due diligence process, we found that all of those employees were somehow related by marriage or blood to the original owner. So you can imagine the type of position this put my client, the potential buyer, in. The first time he makes a decision they don't like, and they take it and out the door they go. So just be aware that employees can always come and go if that is the reason for the asking price. If it's that employee knowledge, what guarantees do you have that they will stay? Buying existing business is usually always going to be the most expensive option. Again, because you have actual financial results, that means that you can be pretty high in your asking price. I will also add, it's not on this list, but in my personal experience, I will also add buying an existing business. They're kind of hard to find. Businesses for sale don't really work the same way real estate does. There's not really a website you can go to list all the businesses for sale in your area. There are a few websites out there, but it's kind of like if they've already hit the website, they've been picked over by the other investors already. There's a reason they're popping up. So finding them can be a little difficult. And knowing a good business broker or working like with a core mentor, someone who is very involved in that business community and knows what's available and what's happening, can be really invaluable if you're looking to purchase an existing business. Your third option is to purchase a franchise. And this is where my entrepreneurship journey started, was in the franchising world. I think I will always be part of the franchising world because it gave me so many more advantages than the other two. That is for you to decide, though, in your individual circumstance. So first and foremost, buy franchise. Immediately, name recognition. Name recognition and a licensed trademark. I will add a caveat here. It doesn't necessarily mean that you, the average consumer, recognize the name. There are a lot of businesses out there that only operate and sell to other businesses. So you as an average consumer may not know that business exists, but people in that particular industry know that name. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking at franchise ownership and you're like, I've never heard of this business. Well, should you have heard of that business? Start there. It's a proven business system. A franchise is a system, okay? And it has been proven. And now you just have to decide if you can run the system. Training and support, that when you purchase a new franchise, that is absolutely what you are buying. It's training and support in the system. It has the lower failure rate out of all the options. Someone else has already done the hard work to figure out if the system works or not. Now it's just, again, it's a plug and play. A lower cost can be lower cost. We're going to go into how much does it cost. If you were like me, when I first heard franchising, I thought, McDonald's, Subway, and it's going to cost me $1 million. It's not always true. We're going to go over that. There are a lot more financing options when it comes to franchising. Again, banks particularly like franchises because the system itself has been proven. There is something called the SBA registry, where franchises can get essentially pre-approved for SBA lending, where the idea and the business system itself are approved. Now the bank just has to approve you as a potential owner. So there are a lot more financing options out there. There is what's called a disclosure process, and we're going to talk about this. Franchising is the only business system I know of where you can do a lot of research, and there is a lot of legal disclosure that a franchisor has to prove that they told you about before you ever purchase or spend a dime on a business. It's really one of the only ones you can thoroughly research and know what you're getting into. Another advantage of the franchise family, it is very nice to have other people in the same business as you that are just maybe in different parts of the country or parts of the world. Personally, in my franchise, if I run into a problem, I know I can pick up the phone and call the franchisee in California or Michigan or Texas and ask for their opinion, advice, and help. You cannot really do that in an independent business. You can't call your competitor necessarily and be like, how do I handle this situation? I mean, maybe you can. I don't know if they'll be truthful or not. But in a franchise system, you get that level of support if you want it. Disadvantages, fewer industry options. I will say there are a lot of industry options, or at least we know of at least 90 industries that franchising is a part of, but there are some things that that are not suitable for franchising, especially anything very new and trendy. Franchising is all about consolidating a fragmented market. Franchising is all about making sure that there is a need and a market for something first before that system has been franchised. You can't really do that if it's something new or trendy. They like to see that there's going to be some longevity there first. So if you're someone who is all about the next greatest, latest thing, franchising might not be a good fit for you. There are structured operating systems. Some people like that, some people don't. Some systems are more open than others. It just depends. We'll talk about, if you are looking at a franchise system, I would absolutely want to know where you fit on that structured spectrum. Do you really like things that are very, very structured? There are yes and no rules to everything, or you like something a little more flexible? We can find you a system that fits. There are territory restrictions, which is a good thing and a bad thing. If you own a territory, while you can't necessarily go outside of your territory, that also means nobody can come into your territory. So choose your territories wisely. You can only sell their products. That is true. McDonald's has the equipment, the ability to make pizza. I'm sure that they could. I'm pretty sure it's an oven. Do they? No. They only sell their products. That is true of almost every franchise. And you do have ongoing royalty payments, and we're going to talk about those royalty payments. This is a very important thing to consider when you're looking at a franchise. What are those royalty payments and what are you getting for them? That should be what helps you determine if it's worth it or not. So more on royalty payments in a minute. I get a lot of questions about royalty payments, rightfully so. The bottom line is the franchisor and you, the potential franchisee, both have to be benefiting from that relationship and that royalty structure. So if one is benefiting and the other is not, it's not a good relationship, walk away. We'll talk more about that as well. But if you are both benefiting, it can be a really nice symbolic relationship where you're both getting something you cannot get on your own. We'll go over some examples of that. Okay, so at the end of the day, what is a franchise? I will tell you what it is not. It is not a product. It is not a specific service. A franchise is a license to use a name, trademark, products, and system in exchange for that initial franchise fee, your buy-in, to get you kind of your business in a box, your starter package, and your ongoing royalties. Okay, it's the system. Specifically, let's talk about veterans and franchising. When I helped veterans transition, and I still do, I teach classes all the time. I'm here at a few of the bases close to my house. I teach transitioning service members. What are you going to do after service? What are you going to do in the civilian world? And veterans specifically are a phenomenal fit for franchising. Veterans work well in a team. They make good leaders. They have strong work ethic. They're able to execute a plan, because at the end of the day, a franchise is exactly that. It's a plan. It's a blueprint. It should help you to get to where you want to go faster than if you tried to do it on your own. Some interesting statistics here. Veterans make up 7% of the general population, but they make up 14% of franchise owners. Double. That's a really huge number. A lot of franchise owners happen to be former service members. Franchisors themselves love having veteran franchisees for all the reasons I just stated. They're usually a very good fit for very specific businesses. And I will say this, a lot of veterans that I assist find franchise systems, a lot of them, part of their business plan and part of their business goal is to also help employ other veterans. And that, I think, is a wonderful mission that can be built into your business model, especially in a franchise model. So if you were someone that was coming out of service or was in service and you know of other veterans that are having a hard time also with transition or trying to find employment in the civilian world, and you can be an employer of choice for your fellow veterans, I would absolutely make that part of your business plan. That's something that's close to your heart. That's something you want to do. There are businesses out there that fit that model. There's also a program called VetFran, and I will put the links in the chat at the end of the presentation for you. But VetFran is a really interesting program. It was founded in '91 after transitioning, veterans came back from the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. There are over 400 companies that are part of the International Franchise Association that are also part of the VetFran program. They offer different incentives, specialized training programs, recruitment and hiring of veterans. There's a lot of resources directed towards veteran business ownership and hiring other veterans inside a franchise system. There are also a lot of tax credits to employers who hire unemployed vets. So there are too many things to mention here. I highly suggest you check out that program. It is on the IFA website, or if you just Google VetFran program, or if you would like, I'm more than happy to talk to you one-on-one about it, and so is your SCORE mentor. Due diligence. So let's talk about that. I talked to you a little bit about, I said that franchising is one of the only business structures where you can actually do a lot of objective due diligence and disclosure before you ever purchase a business, and that is true. And that is through something that is called the franchise disclosure document. The franchise disclosure document is a government form. It is 23 items that of 22 of which are mandatory. They have to be filled out. I've not seen a franchise disclosure document that's less than 180 pages. They are thick and they are very, very detailed, but they have so much information in there for you, a potential franchisee, to learn about before you ever purchase that business. So it has everything from how long the franchisor has been in business, have they ever had any bankruptcies or litigations against them, how much it costs to open and run that franchise. And I like this because it's not just the franchise fee. You can Google franchises all day long, and you can see, oh, you can own a Chick-fil-A for $10,000. You can own a McDonald's for $45,000. You absolutely cannot. That's the franchise fee. The disclosure document, though, has to tell you how much it's going to actually cost you to open your doors and run your business for a period of at least 3 months. And that's really what you need to know. It's not just the franchise fee. It's, do I need any equipment? Do I have to build out a location? Do I need trucks? Do I need signage? Do I need employees, payroll, marketing expenses? All of those things that go into a business, a franchisor has to tell you how much that's going to cost on average and what it has cost in the past. Very good information to know. What the franchise disclosure document also has in it is what my favorite part of the whole document is called item 20. This is, by law, the franchisor has to give you, a potential franchisee, the name and contact information for every current and former franchise owner in their system. And what we teach our clients, and part of your due diligence should absolutely entail interviewing these people, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to know who's doing well in this system. I want to know who's not doing so well. I want to know who's, in the middle. I want to talk to people who have left. I want to talk to people who are still there. I want to talk to everyone, and I want to hear about their experiences and ask them a lot of questions. How much money have they made? Was this a good fit? Would they do it again? That's my favorite question. Would you do this business again? Are you getting the support from the franchisor that you anticipated? Do you feel like your needs are being met? All of those things are available by utilizing that document and interviewing people that are actually part of the system. And trust me, they will definitely tell you what they think. I also help coach people through that process and give you questions to ask. And it's a very robust process, again, to make sure you know what you're getting into. Okay. I'm going to pause. Let me check the chat real quick. Okay, no questions so far, so I'm going to keep on rolling. I would, though, if you all are online and you want to play the game, please pop in the chat what you think. We are now to the myth or fact portion of our presentation, and this is probably one of my favorite parts, because this is where you really get a good feeling and a good understanding of what really is a franchise. All right, first one, myth or fact. Franchising is only fast food and retail. You think that's a myth or a fact? Yay, okay, very good. You guys are paying attention. It is absolutely a myth. There are over 90 industries that franchising is a part of, over 3,500 concepts, 3,600 concepts. There are so many different franchise systems out there. If you've thought of it, there is probably a franchise system for it. Everything from dumpster companies to house flipping, if you're into real estate, to dog training. I actually have a client of mine that opened a franchise specifically to help train service dogs. That is a franchise system that's out there. Everything in between. Or maybe you're someone who wants to own a string of fitness facilities. If you think that there is a franchise for it, there probably is. So it is not just fast food and retail. I promise there are so many more options out there that I wasn't even aware of until I began consulting in this business. Okay, myth or fact? Franchises succeed because of the quality of the product. What do you think? This one's kind of a tricky one. It's a myth, but let me caveat that by saying you still have to have a good product, okay? You can't have a bad product and a good system. You still have to have a good product. People are not going to buy or invest in something that isn't good, right? However, the most important part of a franchise is usually the system. So let's think about the one that everyone thinks about whenever you hear the word franchising, McDonald's. Can you make a better cheeseburger than McDonald's? I bet you can, but most people can't, right? McDonald's does not become the global giant franchise it is because the burgers and fries were so delicious. They did it because of their speedy service system. The fact that they were able to give you a hamburger, fries, and a milkshake in 90 seconds. No one had ever done that before. McDonald's didn't create the burger, they created fast food, right? So their system is what was important. Their system is what skyrocketed them to global success. So it's not just the product. I mean, again, the product has to be good-ish, McDonald's, right? Still good. You still know exactly what you're getting, but it's the marketing, the sales, the operations, and the accounting, right? That's really what got it to where it is today. Think about, again, McDonald's, you think about the McDonald's system itself, take sales, for instance, in marketing. An independent, small hamburger restaurant probably can't afford a Super Bowl commercial. But if you're like me and you watch Super Bowl every year for the commercials, you know there's going to be one about McDonald's, right? Because that is what their system is able to get them. They're able to get their franchisees that type of marketing exposure. So keep that in mind. Matter of fact, there are low-cost franchise opportunities. Yes, actually, this is actually a fact. Yes, it is. Okay, so again, if you were like me, I thought franchising, I thought Subway, McDonald's, Wendy's, $1 million, right? I don't have $1 million, therefore, why would I even look at franchises? They're actually not true. There is a lot of very, very affordable franchises. One thing I will also caveat, there is no automatic correlation between the cost of the franchise and the potential return, okay? This is not a go big, you have to spend a lot of money to make a lot of money. That's absolutely not true. It's going to depend on the industry, it's going to depend on the product, and it's going to depend on the system, right? There are a lot of very, very profitable franchises that are not brick and mortar, that are mobile franchises or work from home where you as the owner don't actually have a physical location. So I like this chart. It does break down the average cost of the initial investment. Maybe 7% of franchises out there are going to be less than $50,000. It's not going to be a whole lot. You start to get a lot more options in this $100,000 to $250,000 range. This is really where the majority of them land. And again, when I'm talking to clients about the initial investment, that the franchise fee and all of your opening costs and all of your operating costs for at least 3 months, sometimes to profitability. Okay, that's really the number you need to be thinking about, regardless if you're doing a franchise or starting up a business. Okay, think about what capital you need to get to profitability. That's the number you should be going after. There is nothing worse than having a great business and just running out of money before it becomes successful. And that's literally the only thing that was wrong. So make sure you're very well capitalized. If you're going into another business, or if you're going into a business or specifically a franchise, I would think about it as investing in another house or in a home, right? Think about it in that 150 to 250 range. That gives you the most options, and it gives you the most runway to be successful. Okay, so how do you? Oh, great, Amanda, that sounds fantastic. Where do I get the money? Valid question. Personal savings. If I would love to know if somebody just has a couple $100,000 hanging out in a savings account. If you do, you're pretty set and you're pretty good to go. If you're not one of those people, I'm not. Friends, relatives, or partner. Sometimes you want to bring on a business partner. That can be done. There are services out there that'll help you match people who want to run a business with someone who just wants to own it or be a private investor. Be careful. Make sure that if you're going into business, someone in a partnership, that everything is, you have some attorneys involved up front. You want to pay attorneys before you need them, right? There's that old saying, don't wait until you need them. That's never a good feeling. Home equity lines of credit, they're very popular right now. Those interest rates are much, much lower than a lot of your traditional lending. Home equity line of credit, seller financing is always an option. TSP, 401k, IRA, if you have stocks, bonds, retirement, or a thrift savings plan, there are options out there where you can utilize those funds to purchase a business, not just a franchise, any business. It is not a loan. It is not a taxable event. It's actually a loophole in the IRS tax code, and it's called a ROBS, or a rollover plan. I can get very specific about that. There's a whole course we teach, an hour long, on how to do that and what companies do that on your behalf. I've personally used this option. If you're interested in learning more about that, please do reach out to me or your SCORE mentor. I'd be happy to help you. But those are options. Not a lot of people have a couple $100,000 hanging out in a savings account, but you may have a little bit of equity in a 401k that you feel is worth the risk to try on a business. So ask me about that if you're interested. Okay, myth or fact? You don't need industry. I don't need industry experience. Or you don't need industry experience. So this one is actually a fact. And this was probably one of my, outside of the money one, this was probably my biggest hurdle when I was looking at business ownership. I thought that to own a mechanic or to own an automotive shop, I had to be a mechanic, right? To own a doctor's office, I had to be a physician. I thought that there was very specific industry requirements and knowledge that you needed to be successful. And that is not true when it comes to franchising. That's the exciting part. A franchisor wants someone who's going to use their system and will focus on being an owner. They bring management skills, they bring people skills, they bring team leadership skills. You can see why veterans are such an attractive fit for franchisors. Franchisors are going to teach you how to do their product. They'll teach you all about that industry. You don't need to come with that knowledge. In fact, they don't like it if you already have industry knowledge. You can imagine, right? If you came into a franchise and you were already in that industry, you may come with some bad habits that they have to break, some things they have to untrain you on and retrain you on later. So franchisors actually prefer that you not be an industry expert. They're the industry expert. You need to be the system expert, and that's what they're going to teach you. So are you trainable is really the number one indicator if you will be a successful franchisee. Okay, well, I own a franchise. A franchise is a great fit when it's a vehicle that can get you to where you want to go, again, faster than you can do it on your own. It's also a way to reduce risk. You are leaning on someone else's knowledge, and you're buying into a system where they've already figured it out. They've already had the failures. They've already figured out the best way to do something, and now they're just sharing that knowledge with you. I mentioned royalties earlier, and I do want to take a moment to talk about those now. royalties are a trade-off. You are exchanging some profits in the long term for risk reduction in the short term. Okay, so let's think about this. When you're paying royalties in a system, you should be getting something that you can't get faster, cheaper, or quicker on your own. Okay, maybe that I pay royalties and it goes to support a call center that answers all of my phone calls for me. I'm an HVAC company and I don't have to have my phone attached to my hip. There's a call center that calls, that picks up the phone for me and makes all of my appointments. And now I just send my crews out to take care of those jobs, right? What are you getting for your royalties and is it worth it? That's the biggest question. What am I paying for the royalty? What am I getting for that royalty? How much would it cost me to do that on my own? And that's where you can decide if it's a good deal for you or not. Good franchisors they actually lose money on you on the short term. That initial franchise fee that you pay, at best, they break even on you. That franchise fee goes to getting you up and running in their system, to your training, all of the software things that need to happen, all of the marketing things that need to happen. At best, they break even. Franchisors really make their money on on that royalty structure, which is nice, in my opinion, because that means royalties are usually a percentage of your gross sales. So the better you do, the better the franchisor does. And that's a good relationship. Everyone is getting something out of it and they are better with each other. That's how you know you're part of a good franchise, and that's how you know if the royalties are worth it. Again, how franchising works, it's a proven system, it's a business in a box. Can you follow the system? And does it fit? And does it fit with your overall goals? Not all franchises are the same. 3,600 plus franchises out there. Obviously, not all of them are the same. Do you want? There are some franchises where you need a lot of units, maybe multiple units, to make a certain amount of income. There's some where you only need one or two. They're very well established franchises. There are some that are new, structured systems, flexible systems, expensive, inexpensive. It just depends on what you specifically want. If you are someone that wants a business that is going to last the next 20 years and you want to pass it on to your children or grandchildren one day, that can be a very different business than if you are someone who likes to do something for 3 or 4 years and then you get a little bored and you want to move on to the next thing, right? Those are different businesses. Sometimes the product can actually be similar, but the business structure or the franchise structure can be very different. Be aware of statistics. Statistics are great if you understand that they're just statistics. Big franchisors can skew percentages because they've had very few failures. McDonald's don't fail, obviously. They can kind of skew some of the data. So just be aware of it, know where the data is coming from. There are no average franchisees. You should really just care about your success, right? I think earlier we talked about if you build a business from scratch, you can build one from your passion. And I think my advice to you is figure out what your passion is. Maybe you do have a specific passion to work in a specific industry, or are you just passionate about being successful or having a successful business or passing down a legacy, right? That doesn't necessarily need to be tied to a product. So figure out what it is that you're passionate about, and we can help you figure out how to get there. Okay, the franchising tagline is, you're in business for yourself and not by yourself, which is nice. Ask yourself these questions if you're thinking about franchising. Am I willing to follow the franchisor system? Okay, is it affordable? That's a big one. Don't overstretch yourself. Is the risk level acceptable? And will I enjoy it? Am I going to enjoy this business? You can't do something you don't enjoy for a very long time. You can do it in the short term. Anyone can do anything that they need to do for their own survival, the survival of their family. But eventually your soul will wither and die. You have to figure out, are you going to enjoy it over the long term? What is important to you? This is how you kind of figure out if you're going to enjoy it. Is it challenge, recognition, prestige? Is it, I want to build a business so I can spend more time with my family or have time for my hobbies and interests? Is it financial security? Is it control? What is it that you want out of this business? And I would say that is good advice no matter what path you choose. Figure out why you want to do this in the first place. Okay, so I know I was talking a lot. Get into the next steps and then we'll open it up for questions. So what if you're like, Amanda, this sounds great, but I have no idea what my skill set is. I have no idea what my passion is. I think I do, but it kind of changes from the day to day. I just don't know what to do. Good news. We actually have something called an entrepreneur readiness profile. It is a free assessment tool. You take it online, you immediately get your results, and it tells you kind of all about you. Some of the things you probably know, some things you don't know. Everything from your individual values, your motives, your core competencies. I find that if you are really good at something, sometimes you don't see that as a skill set. You just kind of take it for granted and you think that everyone's just good at that, when in fact it's a skill. This assessment will really help you determine where you're at and what you would already be good at. So our Entrepreneur's Ready profile is really cool. It'll also give you some suggestions on types of businesses that are best suited for you naturally. So please, please, please take that. I think it'll also help you figure out what your business preferences are. How many employees do you want? Do you want employees? What type? How many? Do you want to do this part-time, full-time? What type of customers do you want? Do you want repeat customers where you see them every day or every week, or do you want kind of the one and done? Do you want an industry that's new or more established? All of these things we can help you figure out through that assessment. We'll also open it up for your transferable skills. Are you good at customer service, sales and marketing, HR, financial, operations management? What is your skill set? Where does it lie? What do you want your life to look like? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Build a strategy around that. What are you going to get out of this? Additional resources. We always suggest you have professional advisors. Your SCORE mentor, absolutely. Your franchise consultant, your FranNet consultant, absolutely. A franchise attorney and accountant. There are some suggested readings on your screen, More Than Just Franchise, E-Myth, Street Smart Franchising. All of these, I know for sure the More Than Just Franchise are available for a free download and e-download off of our website. If you want to go to frannet.com, you can check it out there. And here I think is my last one. So if you are interested in either that assessment or some of those free resources, please do visit us, frannet.com. You can also scan that QR code and input your name and email and request some information that way. We'll be happy to send it to you. And then check out our website. There's also some founder videos on there, some people kind of in your shoes talking about their own journey. It's just a lot of good free information on helping you figure out if franchise ownership is right for you, and if so, which one is the best fit. Okay, whew, I have talked a lot. So I am going to stop now. And Tom, I'm going to kick it back over to you. Did we have any questions that came in while we were chatting?
We do have some questions, and I'll pass them on to you, but we want to take a poll first, if we might. But I also want to tell you that you have let's go back to that other slide where you were. We just want you to take note that we're here to help you at SCORE. Amanda has given you contact information. We have a resource library. We have workshops all the time. Every week we have workshops, but our big product is we want to give you free mentoring on your business plan. And that's not, you could be working with FranNet and with us. Whatever you do, you're going to need a business plan. Even if they hand you one, you're going to need one. And so we help you with that and with a lot of the questions that come up as you start your business. So we're going to look at that poll now, and then we'll do questions. So start writing your questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we will have you answer first. Do you have a better understanding of the structure of becoming a franchisee? Franchisee means the one buying the franchise. Mm-hmm. And would you like to attend a small business roundtable about franchising? Third question is, if you don't have a mentor, would you like to meet with a mentor about franchising? And you have the link for that, and we're going to send it to you. And would you recommend SCORE to a friend? We would be most honored if you would do that. And I know that Amanda would be most honored if you would recommend FranNet to a friend. So take a moment, fill out the poll, and we're very excited about getting on to the questions in a moment. I'll give you about 10, 20 seconds, because I know you're fast thinkers. Okay, 100% of you got something valuable. 50% of you would be interested in a roundtable. 50% of you are looking for a mentor, and all of you would recommend SCORE. So we're very thankful for that. So let's go to full screen and take some questions. We have several that have been asked already. Here's some that are in my hand. Amanda, and we have Peter, who's going to be on the panel to help answer questions. And we have others, experts out in the audience. I saw Andy Cito out there. Amanda, this is a question that I think is pertinent. When you're looking at the track record of a company that's getting into franchising and selling franchises, is there a rule of thumb about what kind of track record they have, maybe how long they've been doing proof of concept?
That's a very good question. So there are a couple things I like to look for whenever I'm looking at a franchise system itself. One, I want to know the experience of the CEO of that company. And that's actually in that franchise disclosure document. It will be a copy of their resume. Where did they come from? What have they done before? If they've bankrupted a couple of businesses before this one, that's a pretty big red flag. I want to know that immediately. I also really like to know how many franchise units are open versus how many the corporate store owns. For a healthy franchise system, there need to be more franchise owners than corporate owned locations, for obvious reasons. So those, I think, are the two big ones. What is the experience level of the people that are actually owning and operating at the top? And then how are they supporting their franchisees in their system?
That's actually a good question. I've done quite a few of these, and sometimes they're buying an existing franchise. They may work there for a period of time to get the experience to see if that's something they really want. But Amanda's exactly right. You can Google any franchise and see their track record, their financial solvency, and more importantly, you have a lot of franchisees complaining. I won't mention the name, but they're no longer here. But the corporate was rating the fees that they're taking in and not supporting the franchisees, and it's not good. So it's
absolutely
buyers beware for any business that you do, and it's called market research. Take the time if you're going to make the investment and the time. Take the time, and if you don't know, ask Amanda or one of our SCORE mentors, and we'd be happy to answer those questions for you.
Super answers. This is one I'm merging a couple of questions because they seem like typically the same one. How much money do I need to get started? The other end of that question is when we go to a bank or we go to one of the SBA front offices or vendors, is there a rule of thumb on how much skin the buyer, investor, borrower should have in the game? Typically, we say 25, 35%, depending on the industry. Is there a standard for that?
Yes, there is. For purchase of franchise, it's an SBA 7A loan, and it's 20% down or 10% down, depending on the financial stature of the purchaser. Get together with your SCORE mentor, and we can walk you through that. If you're going to buy a new franchise, usually the franchise office through their FTA, they have a process you go through, and you have to qualify, and they're going to ask the same questions. You're going to have to have a personal financial statement and assets, because nothing is free, and especially in opening a business, and you're going to have some skin in the game, and you're going to have some operational capital that you're going to need when you open that business. And sometimes, and the SBA office is not open to do that, go to your local banker. Banks originate the SBA loans. The SBA does not. They can give you some information on the top, but work with your local banker that you're banking with today. And if not, you can always Google who's doing SBA loans in your community. And I would recommend to be sure that you do hook up with a bank that is, we call it a PLP, is a preferred lender program that can cut through the chase on the pre-approval process because they're an experienced banker and they can approve the loans at the bank level and not have to go through the SBA and get that approval process, which takes much longer. Most relevant banks that are PLP lenders can give you an answer within a couple weeks. And I've had horror stories where people waited 1 year, 90 days, and 60 days. And I would say, like the old country western song, shop around.
I will echo what Peter said. I will say 20 to 30% in cash is needed. Some franchisors will offer in-house financing, especially to veterans. There are some products available for veterans specifically, especially if you've gotten out of service recently. There are some very specific veteran loan programs. Part of our assessment, by the way, will also ask you for some financials, and I can help guide you to which banks to go to as well. I like going to your personal bank, but sometimes I also suggest that you get a quote from a bank that you don't normally do business with in case it's bad or you need to do something different. Like save the real package with your bank when you eventually want to go with them. Have someone else maybe help you with figure out how to put your best foot forward because banks can be a little tricky, especially post-COVID.
I think you touched on a couple of the other questions we had, like funding options for veterans. And let's drill down a little bit on the royalty fee. And you predicted that one of the questions we would receive would be, why would I need to pay a royalty fee? What exactly does the royalty fee do when you pay that?
Great question. So every royalty is different. What I can tell you is in that franchise disclosure document, the franchisor has to tell you exactly what you're getting for that royalty payment. Sometimes, again, it's a cost center. Sometimes it's just insurance, right? The insurance premiums by paying your royalty are going to be much, much cheaper than if you tried to insure a roofing company on your own. Sometimes, and a lot of times it's marketing. There's a general marketing fund. I go back to you as an individual probably can't afford a Super Bowl commercial. You and 400 of your fellow franchisees putting in money into the royalty pot can afford a Super Bowl commercial, and it helps everyone. So it's going to depend, but make sure it's relevant to you. Sometimes if you are looking into a franchise and the royalty structure is more expensive than if you could do something on your own just because of your own personal network, then it's not a good fit for you. Don't purchase into that franchise. It's all about what do you get out of it versus what do you put into it and how long does it take you to get results.
That's super. So are there franchises that don't require a great deal of inventory or a physical location? Somebody wants to know.
Oh yeah, this one.
Yeah. Okay.
There are a lot of franchises out there, and if that's one of your requirements when we build a business model out, then that's absolutely a great indicator of where we need to go. So there are a lot of franchises where it's not necessarily, it's a service that you're performing, not a product. So think about, let's think about HVAC company. Someone coming out and servicing your HVAC system. There's no equipment with that. There's a few tools and a truck with equipment, and it's mostly payroll. Same can be said for staffing agencies. Almost every staffing agency, like the big ones that, like Amazon uses a lot of staffing agencies and some of these warehouses, that's just, you're just recycling payroll. There's not a lot of stuff associated with it. It just is going to depend on what you want. But yes, absolutely. The question is yes, or the answer is yes. That's
super. Amanda, you had a great quote. I've used it many times myself in a number of industries. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. What are some ways that kind of support is manifested in a person's daily business life? And then Peter might have insight on that too. How is it that you do not feel alone when you're in a franchise business?
That's a great question. And I will tell you that For me, it's daily. So if I need help with, I need to do a presentation geared towards, something specific, and I've never done that before, I can call my franchisor and say, hey, I need help with this. I need help putting this PowerPoint together. I need help figuring out how to say this appropriately. I need help figuring out how to post to my social media because I am so bad at that, and I understand it's important. And don't ask me how to make TikToks. I do not know, but my franchisor does. So that is very helpful. It's also nice if you're stuck. You have other franchisees you can call, you have the franchisor you can call. To me, being part of a franchise system, the value in that never became so obvious as it did during COVID. My franchisor helped me fill out paperwork for PPP loans. They helped me figure out how to interpret these state laws of, am I essential? Am I not essential? Can I open? Can I close? I mean, that's a very extreme example, and I don't think we'll necessarily see that again. But had I been an independent business, I would not have survived the pandemic. It just hands out would not have happened for me. And I really credit my franchisor to helping us all figure that out and supporting each other through that.
You gave us a real hint on that when you said that the franchisor has a stake in your success. They don't
Yes.
succeed unless you succeed. I have a follow-up question to that for Peter.
But actually the SCORE motto is that you don't go it alone. And
Mhm.
SCORE's been doing that since 1964. We've been the 911 call for small businesses. And during the pandemic, it was just chaotic, putting $1 billion a week out there to the public. And now we're just catching up with about $8 billion worth of fraud. So it was a cumbersome process, and many businesses got left behind. And we were the 911 call that they called for SCORE. And our volunteers responded to the call to service. And so no one should go it alone on a business. There's many free resources for you, and there's many opportunists out there that will charge you money. And the pride and joy we have of SCORE is providing that service to our clients and our communities at no cost. These are your tax dollars, and we want to be sure you get the best bang from your dollar, not only from the government, but from the agencies that we represent. And as Amanda knows, you're in partners with the franchise, or because you're in partnership together. Your success is what we say is our success. So we want to be sure that you succeed, and that is our motto.
It's very sad when I had my first session with a client, I found out they've spent thousands of dollars on something that we could give them. And so, Peter, that was my next question to you, was what are some skills that SCORE can help people acquire when they want to get into any kind of business? Like simple steps, and our resource library and our mentoring.
Get that question asked all the time, Tom. And the thing is that if they pair up with a mentor, there are many avenues or questions an existing or startup business may have. But you know what? I try not to do a data dump, and so often we've got so much information. We do a data dump on a client and they're so confused in the field out there. Our job is to focus on what they need help on. And it's usually a direction of the business. There's certain segments of the journey of starting a business, and we have a roadmap. Follow the little brick road, but do that with a mentor. And we have simple steps to start your business or grow your business. So there's a mentor in there that can help you through those steps, whether it's doing a business model canvas, marketing, find who your target market is, the industry, especially access to capital and your options. We have a great webinar coming up for veterans access to capital opportunities from one of our national sponsors at NAV, and that'll be coming up. So most of the people today, it looks like we have a lot of veterans. They will be included in the upcoming veterans roundtables and information pages for them. So you can register for those, because I'm sure you'll be in the links after today's webinar.
Amanda, from one of our listeners here, are there any resources or places we can find information to inform ourselves of the red flags to be leery of that aren't commonly known? Fees or requirements of equipment or third parties may be money pit, but are required by the franchise. You touched to that, but can you give a little more on that?
Yes, and that is a good question. So sometimes some franchise systems are not great, and they force you to purchase certain equipment, and sometimes it makes sense, certain equipment or products from the franchisor, right? So going back to McDonald's, you can't just buy their fillet of fish from anywhere, you have to buy it from them. That ensures quality and consistency across all stores. So a lot of times it makes sense. I will tell you that it's going to be a case-by-case basis. There's no like just general red flags to look for, but anything where if it's a third-party vendor or where you must get these products or these services from specific vendors, that will be spelled out in the franchise disclosure document and will absolutely be spelled out in the contract that you sign. And if any of those seem like a money pit or on paper it just doesn't look right, interviewing and calling those franchise owners in that system will absolutely tell you if it's working out or if it's not working out.
How many phone calls would you make to other franchise owners, roughly?
As many as you need to feel comfortable. So I want you to talk to, if I'm working with a client, I want us to talk to at least 5. More if there's a larger system. So if it's a massive system, if there's 400 units in the system or 400 franchise owners in the system, obviously I want you to talk to more. If there's only 10, talk to all 10. And not just people that are in the system that are similar to you. I also want you to talk to people who are like you, right? So if you are someone with a young family and you're looking to do this as a way to support maybe 3 or 4 dependents, you need to be talking to someone in that system that has a similar life situation and ask them those questions of, hey, I'm also trying to support a family of 4 off of this franchise business. Is it possible? Have you found that you've been successful in that? I want you to talk to people that are in similar markets to yours. So if you are in Indianapolis, Indiana, I want you to talk to somebody in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's a similar demographic. It's a similar area geography. I want you to get a good cross-reference. I also want you to talk to people that have left the system. I want you to talk to people that maybe they sold their business or they transferred out. Why did you leave? All of those things. And then you can ask those nuts and bolts questions. Like, did you have to use certain third-party vendors? How did you feel about that? Did you get good service? If you didn't, did you tell the franchisor? Did they do anything about it, or did they ignore you? All of those are relevant questions.
Great. Again, you sort of touched to this, but there is a specific question related to the kind of credit you need. Do you need A+ credit, or you need a 750 credit score, or are there options for people who are maybe have a little lower credit scores?
You do need a decent credit score, and it depends on your lending. So if you're going to go small business route, I believe they have a minimum credit score. I think it's 650 or 620. I don't want to misspeak, but it's on the SBA's website.
Depends on the size of the loan, yeah.
And it also depends on the size of the loan. If you're doing
650.
650, okay. If you're doing some creative financing, if you're getting third-party financing, if you're doing friends and family financing, sometimes credit doesn't necessarily play into it. It's going to depend on where you want to go for your funding. And sometimes your credit score will dictate where we can go for funding.
Good. I think that's helpful to everybody. So it's not hopeless.
It's not hopeless.
No.
It's definitely not hopeless.
If you don't have 650, you can get there.
Yeah.
But
If you have
need to work
cash, you
on it.
don't need credit at all.
All
Isn't that
those
wonderful?
fails, you can do a seller carry back.
Yes, there are other options out there. Now, some of those can be more risky. Some of those interest rates can be much higher. It's all going to depend on your risk tolerance. And again, just know what you're getting into.
I have a new one. Oh no, I've already asked that one. So good. I think that you have answered almost all the questions. There was one that had to do with something you had already addressed. So
Okay, so let's go ahead and move along. And thank you so much, Amanda, for some great information today. And more importantly, please stay tuned for additional webinars. And Amanda agreed before we came on that we'll have some other roundtables, and should she be available, she'll be able to join us. So I just want to
Absolutely.
thank everybody for your service, and please have a safe day. Amanda, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. I will tell you, SCORE, I own 5 businesses now, I hope successfully so far, and SCORE was a huge part of that. My mentor, I have her on speed dial, and I could not do it without her. No matter how many businesses I open, I run everything by her.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you for
great.
that.
Well, thank you, everybody.